Morning Kenya. You're just in time for the next interview. Now, this morning I'm joined by members from the Kenya Students Christian Fellowship, and I would like to introduce the one that is just next to me. This is Gladys Mukami.
Yes, that's right.
Karibu sana, Gladys.
Asante.
She is the National Field Coordinator of Kenya Students Christian Fellowship.
Yes, that's right.
And to my extreme left, I'm joined also by Eric Lumosi. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
He is the chairman of, actually the Nairobi County chairman of the Kenya Student Christian Fellowship. This morning we will be focusing on life of a student, even the life of a teacher, now that we are closing school. Remember, schools are closing. It is quite important to ensure that our children are put in the right place and they have the right moral standards. Now, the Kenya Students Christian Fellowship will be here to tell us more about what they do, even when it comes to the upbringing of our child. How can you, as a parent, ensure that your child grows with the right moral standards that are required, even when they are at home? Yeah, and now that you're going to stay with them, what should you look out for? What should you promote? Well, this is the discussion we shall have in the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter, at KBC Television. Tag me at Ramago. Let me start with you, Chair. What is KSCF all about?
Wow. Kenya Students Christian Fellowship is a movement that was begun so many years ago, actually 1958, registered in 1959. Wow. And it began because the forefathers of this nation who looked at what was happening, especially in the inception of churches beginning schools, and mostly venturing into training those students in the way, the spiritual way, in their own doctrinal way.
Yeah, during that time when we had churches making sure that a church has a school that it has started.
Exactly.
And mostly we had that with the Catholic schools and Anglican. Technically, right now we can practically say that most churches have a school that is affiliated to them.
Yeah, in fact, generally, almost 60% of schools, whether public or not, at least were begun by churches, and are being run even at that point today by churches. Only the TSC that supports them with the teachers. So during that time, it was like when a church begins a school, whatever spiritual modeling that was done was based on their doctrines. And therefore, it didn't matter whether the admission or enrollment was coming from whichever other church, because when it comes to the enrollment of the students, they were coming from many other denominations. But now in that school, which is sponsored by a given church.
And that's when now the debate comes in.
Yes.
Students from different backgrounds, different beliefs, coming into one place with one specific belief.
Exactly.
Right? Let me come to you. What do you think about this? Looking forward as to how far we have come as a country, do you think we are bringing up our students in the right moral standards? I'm looking even into the issues that have been trending over the past few years. Students killing each other, burning schools, burning dormitories, some even getting to issues of rape. These problems start and are happening in our institutions of learning.
Thank you so much for that. I would say that in this time we are living, the students are being raised in the godly ways. One thing is because we have churches that are committed, and we also have this organization, Kenya Student Christian Fellowship. Let me first of all say about KSCF. Kenya Student Christian Fellowship, the abbreviation is KSCF. And it has been established nationally. And we are reaching in very many schools in a way that we are sure that the content we are taking to schools is able to build a godly student. And we also have churches that are coming up with these high schools. They're also doing a lot. So when you talk about the few cases of killing, drugs, I think it's more of a few individuals. It's not a whole generation.
Okay.
Because us as KSCF, our vision is to have a generation of role model Christian students who are having godly values and virtues, who are actually involved in positively involved in the society, even in churches. And we are seeing that. We have seen students being transformed. I think we need to be focusing more on the success story whenever we are giving the reports on the generation that we are having of the youth. Because I think the news tend to bring more of the negative things. But of course, we have had thousands who are giving their life to Christ and discipleship going on in schools. So as you talk about the contribution of the organization of KSEF and church to the youth, I think it's incredible. To me, I would say that KSEF as an organization is doing so much, and it's worthy to, to be supported by churches.
But now, speaking about the students' life, recently we had cases of one school, it even made the headlines in the news. One school where we had a case of arson, and claims were that there are students who burned their own dormitories. Some students have been even caught raping their own watchmen. It has been there. What does that say about the morals that we when it comes to giving our children, and going back even to parenting as a whole, now that students are coming back home? Yes.
Well, it has got a lot to do with it's not, we cannot, like, for example, pinpoint a given area and say probably the parents are the ones that failed, or what. The society in general needs to come out, and I appreciate the fact that even when it comes to the Ministry of Education, they have got their goals. And
so
one of the goals
is the society.
It's the society generally, whereby now everybody needs to take a stake in modeling this character, in ensuring that the morals are well taken care of right from home when they come to school, and even the neighborhood. You remember, like previously we had a child was for the community, which is changing today. It's like now if a parent or a neighbor finds a child doing wrong, he may not so much like correct, because the parent will begin to cause problems with the neighbor if at all he reprimands.
Yeah, because that's where the case that comes in. Huyu ni mtoto wangu, kwa nini namchapa? Mimi ndo naweza piga mtoto wangu mimi.
Exactly.
That's the way.
That's now where the whole thing fails. And now that's what I'm saying, it's a societal problem. And therefore, if all of us are to change the mindset in terms of how best that we know is able to bring this child up in the best of the manner, and then we all embrace, then it will make up the child to come up growing in a nice way, knowing that if I mess up here, even if it's just a road passers by, and he sees me do wrong, he will have to punish me or correct me. And therefore that will curtail a student or a child doing just anything, anyhowly, whatever.
Gladys, do you agree with what he's saying here? Even when it comes to disciplining our children, at some point the case of discipline also became a national debate. Should we put corporal punishment to our children?
For me, I think it's much of godly counsel that is required, because I know one thing. I will base my they say argument with biblical aspect, on biblical aspect, in such a way that if a person is a new creation, old is gone and new has come. So if you force a person who is not born again, they don't have the nature that is able to bring out the aspect of virtues that we may want, the moral that we want. If you try to clear it from outside, it may not be possible. What is required first, the student need to receive the gospel, to receive the life of God, the nature of God that will enable them to live a godly life. So I'm saying that in experience with myself, because I grew up as a Christian, and most of the things I didn't have to be punished for me to know the way. Actually, I had the godly counsel in me. So the student, what they require more is the gospel, the word of God that will change them. The aspect of indiscipline in schools has come up because of lack of the word of God in schools.
We are not preaching the gospel as we ought to.
Yes, we need a lot of gospel. We need the student to receive the word of God. It's the word of God that transforms. So without the word of God and the students, there's corporal punishment. That may bring even more rebelliousness in some way.
So punishing them even stirs up rebellion within the life of the students.
It is possible.
Even when they're at home, fanya makosa kiboko, we should be careful with dealing with punishing how we are punishing our kids.
Exactly. Like for example, when you look at, and this is what we have done research on, most of the schools that have embraced like the programs we have in Kenya Student Christian Fellowship, and they are running with them, because again there are those that are running with them on a weekly basis. There are those that are running with them, depending with what events that are there for them to at least do the training and have fellowships with students, discipling with them and training them. You find that we have got a crop of so many students that for once stand out for the right, and they will not advocate, say, even for banning of schools or even for rampaging and doing many of those other vices that happens. Those schools have no history of such kind of strikes. It is only that, and this is why now the word of God comes in, because when they are trained in it many times, they tend to stick and stand. Proverbs 6:22 says, train up your child in the ways of the Lord. Right. And even when they grow up, they will not depart from it. So this begins and it runs all through.
You said that for you never experienced things like corporal punishment. You were trained and you knew these things even as you were growing up.
Of course,
you know, it's
it
different
depends
from
on the generation.
Of course, I was beaten, but in most cases, I would view as if, you know, some of these cases were unfair because it was kind of a mass punishment where when one does a mistake, we are beaten, all of us. And talking of corporal punishment, for me, I would say, I would go with the word of God. I would pray that the schools may embrace the word of God. Because like Mr. Lumosi was saying, the aspect of how the schools were formed from churches is that they were bringing their youth to teach them the word of God. To teach them the word of God. That was the aspect. Where
and now what about now that we are going to have children coming in, the pupils and the students are coming back home, they do a mistake, what should the parents do? Chairman.
Well, the parents have an obligation to take care of their kids, and of course, even in the recent past, there is that we have got parents even going to the extent of having CCTVs in their homes to monitor what is happening during the day, so that as they come in the evening, especially for those that are in towns, they are able to know where to begin from and help the student, or just know that there is a problem with this child. Or maybe it was the house help, and know how to intervene in such a kind of a scenario. But again, we have got programs that are running across the very many churches today. We have got the VBS, and students are meant to go even how to continue the training or be trained in the right manner with the various organizations that knows during holidays, because especially because of the issue of the absent parents, then it's like they can still get the support morally and spiritually at a given church. And this continues to model the child, continues to make them at least be in a position to know what is right and follow them.
Now, how can a parent engage their child when it comes to making a very close observation towards ensuring that they grow spiritually, especially during these holidays? Remember, 3 months they spend in school and 1 month they spend at home, or it can even be less than a month.
Sure.
So 3/4 of their time,
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
3/4 of their time is spent with teachers. Now, how can a parent maximize on the little time that they have on their child to ensure that they have grown spiritually and more so morally?
Well, I think the most important thing that needs to happen here is for a parent to make a deliberate move that during this period of time that the students are at home, they are there with them. At least they work out a modality that in the course of my duty and everything that I am available. So they spend some time with that child, they play together, they have counsel together, they do things there. And during this bonding, the child is able to open up even to the parent, and the parent gets an avenue even to continue teaching and training that
But
child.
nowadays you have a problem here. Parents are too busy. Gladys, we say the truth here. Parents are too busy.
Yes.
During the holidays, they want to look for school fees to pay for the next term.
Sure.
They are trying to get their business up and running. There's a family that has around 7 kids. You have to look for money to buy all of them shopping and food during the holiday. Will it be possible to do such things?
You know, I'm thinking it's not even a matter of even just being busy. We have most of families are dysfunctional. And some students come from broken families, others single mothers, and all. Even some
are
students.
orphans.
Yes, And some, they come from a background where, the parents are not born again, so they don't have the value of the Word of God. So it depends now with the kind of the setup the students are coming from. If they're coming from a godly family, that they're sure that the mentorship will continue in their homes and the Word of God will continue. But us as KSU, that's where we come in strongly to support these students who are coming from dysfunctional families, to ensure that that time when they're at home and they get discouraged, they're not taken care of. There's no, they're not taken care of spiritually. So us as KSCEF, when they open schools, we are there with them just to encourage them, to ensure that if there is maybe immoral things that happen during the holiday, we ensure that they get restored back to Christ. We counsel them, mentor them. So for us, we may not be able to know or dictate what will happen to a student when they go to their homes. But of course, as KSCF, we have come up with some activities that the students participate when they go to holidays, when in the time of their holidays. So as KSCF, we have structured some things that may help the students when they're in holiday, to ensure that they continue to be mentored. If they're coming from dysfunctional families, KSCF give them the platform to continue being in a godly environment.
All right, let's talk about drugs here. Students, now that they have come back home, peer pressure comes in, peer influence. You get some engaging in drug and alcoholism, drug abuse, alcoholism. At a tender age, someone gets addicted. And it is quite alarming when you look at the numbers and the statistics. Parents are not aware about what their children are engaged in. Some even go to the extent of joining bad groups and gangs, criminal gangs here. Is there a possibility, is there a way that we can curb this?
Well, this is coming up because for once of either the absent parents, the parents are not with their students or their children, the children are alone, and therefore they get to
they are idle now.
Right, and of course even friends. Now the peer pressure comes in, and because of probably even the background, which is like, say, the students, the children are not coming from parents who are not born again, and just like my colleague puts it, you realize eventually because of the peer pressure and even the media, sometimes when it comes to, they can just get a movie from wherever and they are watching, and whatever stuff they are watching is not right and it's not good content for them, then eventually they go into such kind of behaviors.
It's because they are idle.
Exactly.
Now, should a parent provide internet for them, for their children? Say, I don't want you to be idle, so I'll give you internet, I'll give you Wi-Fi, use it.
But I can now, that will be even making it worse, because now what content is the child getting? Because that is what is key and important.
You cannot be able to really
you can't control. You're giving the internet and you can't control what stuff they are getting, then you can be sure you are messing up with that child. We were talking with a certain lady yesterday as we were going to one of the schools, Parkland area girls. And she says that sometimes they were thinking with their colleagues how they could just go and even rob a bank and hit guys and all that. And as we were discussing about what they were thinking that they could do, the question was, where did it come from? And then it was like, okay, we were seeing some movies. And these movies were bringing the issue to do, like, for example, the Rambo, whereby now somebody is able to fight everybody and still
watching action movies, and you feel you can
become the same
actor.
Exactly. So that is because of the content.
And you forget they are just acting.
Exactly. So here is a child that wants to play it exactly the way
as they saw it in the movie.
Exactly.
And we have seen this happening even in our society right now. They engage. I was sharing with some of my colleagues last week here concerning relationships in high school. They engage in relationships. Some of them end up hurting each other because they end up in fights. We had a recent activity that happened last week, and one student was really seriously injured because they were fighting over a relationship issue. One wants this lady, the other wants this man, and they are in high school. Should we really, how do we look into this issue, engaging our children when it comes to relationships and sexual affairs?
Well, that's when now the aspect of having to talk to your child is very important. And This can only happen when you are present with them and you're talking to them. And if today you discussed about relationships, tomorrow in your engagement and in your time with your kids, you will talk about drugs. The following day, you will talk about other things probably that are affecting them, and they have heard, they have seen, and maybe they are still wondering, they are still discovering what is it that can happen concerning this. So at that point, the parent who has got a wide knowledge and experience is able to guide the child in the right way. Deuteronomy puts it very clearly that as they sleep, as they wake up, on the roads while you're walking with them, you ensure that you continue to train that child. So the idea of having that fellowship, having that relationship bond that is very strong, brings up the child in the right way.
And the child can even be able to share his or her problems with you as a parent,
openly,
because they trust you.
Exactly.
As we bring this discussion to a close here, let me hear it from you. When it comes to engaging our children, and let me speak about church, what is the role of the church in helping parents when the children are in the holidays?
That is, come up again?
The role, how the church can help the parents in,
church helping the parents when the
during
students
the holidays when the kids are in holiday.
Okay. I know that most of the parents come from the churches, and if they are not in church, that's unfortunate, because how now will they get in touch?
Yeah.
So the churches can assist the parents with coming up with the programs, like the way Mr. Lumusi had talked about the programs for the students, where now the students will get engaged in their churches. Talking about now, as KSCF, we are now the organization that we are working with, we also collaborate with churches to ensure that we have many activities like the camps and conferences during the holidays where the students attend, so that they're not left out unattended.
Okay, now
yes.
let me give each and of you, one of you 30 seconds, just have a final word, even as we bring this discussion to a close, even as we talk about engaging our children during the holiday. Have one general comment each, 30 seconds. Let me start with you.
Okay. Generally, like now, as we talk about having the church, how can it get involved, or KSCF can get involved with the parents, assisting them with their students. We have organized, like right now we have 40 camps across the nation that will be happening in the month of August.
Okay.
And we shall have thousands of students going to those camps, and will be trained the word of God, and have most of them give a life to Christ. And even for the teachers, they need to be assisted.
Okay.
We also have another activity for them in August. That will be in Kenya High.
All right.
Yes.
In Kenya High School.
Yes, for the teachers, for the chaplains, for the KSCF associates, where they will be trained.
All right.
Yes.
When?
That will be 14th to 17th.
August.
Yes,
all
in
right.
Kenya High School.
All right, in Kenya High. Yes.
Just to stress on what my sister puts, the parents, associates, we have got a team of so many that are working with the students in high schools and colleges. And even during the holidays, we do not just leave them like that. There is some programs that are running. Now she talks about camps running across. We have got over 39 already that are happening in various counties and regions in the country. Like Nairobi, we have got one at Moi Girls from 9th to 13th, and we're expecting students and associates. We have got programs for the youths, those that have just finished school and then they're still at home. We have got programs for the associates, that is now the patrons, the chaplains, the other professionals that are working with the students, and we also have the students themselves that will be there, and we want to invite them to come. And we have good time. We have got wonderful programs that have been laid together, and we just know.
All right, thank you very much. That is Eric Lumosi. Thank you very much for coming, and Gladys Mukami.
Thank you for having me.
Now we are heading over to Milimani Law Courts. Remember, we talked about it earlier on Eyes on Politics. Governor Ferdinand Waitu, that is Kiambu County Governor, is going to court this morning. We have a live feed, which we shall be giving you that in a couple of minutes. But before that, let me wrap off this show. Good morning, Kenya. It has been a pleasure having you since 6 a.m. See you again tomorrow morning at 6. May God bless you. May God bless the work of your hands. My name is Ram Aguko. Crossing over to Milimani Law Courts.